Hello, my name is Gideon Chasey, and I chose to do my research project on Hitler Youths. I chose to do this because Hitler and Nazi Germany had always fascinated me. They were, of course, evil, but they were so organized and meticulous with everything they did and said, and especially the indoctrination of the Hitler Youths. When researching it, I asked myself first a couple questions. The first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to understand why he went after children. Then I wanted to understand how he was able to do that. And then I wanted to understand how the Hitler Youth programs were set up and run. When addressing my first question of why he went after children, I chose to look into Hitler's background. Hitler had a history of going after vulnerable groups of people. Hitler's ultimate goal was to unite Germany as one proud nation, and to do that, he created a common enemy of the people, the Jews. The Jews were an incredibly vulnerable group, as they have been blamed for multiple of the world's problems, which is why Hitler targeted them. And he went on even later in his reign to target more vulnerable groups, such as disabled and homosexuals. His history of targeting vulnerable groups would definitely explain his desire to target children. Children are inherently so vulnerable and malleable, Hitler would obviously see them as an asset. After asking why, I went on to ask how he was able to indoctrinate the children that were a part of the Hitler Youth programs. In order to understand how, I looked into how a developing mind of a child even works, and I learned in early childhood, a developing mind picks up on repeating symbols and phrases they see and hear to understand the world around them. A child living in Nazi Germany would be exposed to a plethora of Nazi symbols and speech influencing the child subconsciously. And that was a huge thing. In Nazi Germany, they didn't say hi when greeting people. They would even say Hail Hitler as a form of greeting. So a child is being subjected to all of this and is subliminally picking it all up. Later on, as a child emotionally develops, they form a sense of morality and self-identity. The morality of a child is centered around fear of punishment and pleasing their guardians. Self-identity is formed by the child's understanding of the relationship they have with others and their role in relations to things like gender. In Nazi Germany, the role of each individual is clearly defined with their main purpose being serving the Führer. It leaves little room for children to establish their own identity. The child's identity becomes one with an identity of a Nazi citizen. That becomes a center part of their identity. In order to further enhance his grip on it, Hitler even made Nazi ideology be a part of the school curriculum. The most notable alteration was to the biology requirements. The class originally focused on general life and living organism, like any biology class that even you and I would have taken in our life. But after Hitler came to power, the class focused on race science and taught the kids that Jewish people were their own race. Nazi ideology was believed by the public majority, so kids would blindly accept the teachings out of fear of punishment. As I said before, children are inherently afraid of being punished by their guardian or whoever is in charge of them. And so a teacher telling them that, they're not going to question it because they're a child. Beyond just the classroom learning, at home, parents would often give their child Nazi ideology propaganda, such as, like, there were children's books that were specifically made to target children, obviously, because it's a children's book, but they were filled with Nazi ideology. One of the most famous ones is called The Poisonous Mushroom, and it's a story about a boy and a mother, and they go out and they're picking mushrooms, and the mom is teaching the child about how to tell if they're poisonous or if they're good mushrooms that you can eat. And the boy's like, oh, like the Jews. They're hiding amongst us, but they're poison. And that was the whole purpose of the book, was to teach children that Jews are not like us. They're the poisonous mushrooms in the batch of, like, the mushroom patch of Germany. And that really sticks with children because they're being taught that at such a young age in such a nonchalant manner that it really, like, resonates with them. So now I'm going to talk about how the German youth programs were structured. When imagining the German youth programs, most people might immediately think of the Hitler Youth Program, but there were in actuality multiple German youth programs, and they were organized by age. The first age group was called the Little Fellows. It was a co-ed group whose ages ranged from 6 to 10. After the sexes were separated, boys joined a group called the German Young People. This organization targeted boys 10 to 14 and was the first step in joining the official Hitler Youth Program. The female counterpart was the League of Girls. After completing that, the girls would join the League of German Girls ages 14 to 18, while the boys would then join the official Hitler Youth Program. These programs were presented as fun rather than just political brainwash. A child would view them as very much as similar to, like, the Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, and in order to make that really sure, Hitler actually banned all of those programs like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, so that if you wanted to have a fun-loving time outdoors, your only option was to join a Hitler Youth Program. There was no Boy Scout alternative. And Hitler also made it illegal for parents to deter or forbid their child in any way from joining the program. And this did a lot. It helped entice children to want to do it more because, like, their parents couldn't make them, and so they're able to be a little devious, so that appealed to a lot of children. And it split the divide between parent and child. Hitler wanted the children to be answering to him. Like, he wanted to be above the parents, and that further did that. Next, I want to talk about the treatment in boys and girls and how they were taught in these programs. The boys, they were taught Nazi ideology, of course, but they were also taught the importance of serving their country. Their training was very reminiscent of how Spartan boys were trained. They focused on strength training and military skills. The way that a boy could serve Germany best would be a good soldier. And so that's what they were trained. And the girls' training was drastically different. Theirs focused more on domestic skills. The way a girl could best serve her country was by being a good wife and having Aryan children. And the program stressed the importance of Aryan features. Overall, I learned a lot about why and how Hitler was able to obtain so much control, and I found it really interesting, especially when I was looking into all the different age groups and programs of it. I always thought, like, anytime I saw, like, a picture in, like, a textbook or something of, like, young German youth in the program, I always thought they were Hitler youths, but in actuality, like, if there's, like, a child, like, under the age of 10, they're not in the Hitler Youth Program. They're a part of something else. The fact that, like, a Hitler Youth was used as such an umbrella term for all of these, like, subgroups of youth programs, I thought was very interesting, and I had a very good time doing the project, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Goodbye.